AI and the homestead. So they don't really they really don't go together too well. But the reason for the title is what we're gonna be viewing today and going over because AI is here. It will be taking over. It already is really taking over in many different ways. A lot of people have been losing their jobs and will continue to lose their jobs. So going forward, if we acquaint ourselves with the understanding of what happens in Revelation and also the other prophecies in Scripture, we can, God tells us what the future is going to be like. Now, how everything plays out, it doesn't really matter because we are told the things that are going to happen. And when we know the things that are going to happen, we can prepare ourselves. And we can prepare ourselves earlier and earlier the more that we read Scripture and seek out the knowledge and understanding of our God. So I want to get into Revelation. We're going to read Revelation 18 just for a bit. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacy. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sin, and that ye receive not her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. So we know one thing from this, and it comes down to we don't necessarily need to know who Mystery Babylon is, whether you believe it's America or another country or another place here on this good old flat earth. But we do know that Babylon is fallen, and then we also know all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So whether you're in Babylon, the mystery Babylon, or not, everything has spread all around the world because of Babylon, just like we read in Babylon as well too. So when we watch AI and we even think about just Revelation chapter 6, verse 7, and when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And so I believe the third one as well too, the third seal, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hands. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So we know where the world is going and shaping up to be. And so thinking about AI, it's doing exactly what Revelation is talking about, making it harder to buy and sell, for the fact that it's taking jobs, it's coming into power, Makes me think also too the beast that gave him power to reign, or the dragon that gave the beast power for a short time. It's quite interesting to think about that. And then we have Revelation 12 verse 7. Oh no, it's 14 verse 7. Saying with loud voice, fear God. Oh, let me read 6, because this is the everlasting gospel. When people ask, well, what is the gospel? Well, fear God and give glory to him is what I think of, because that's the everlasting gospel. That's the simplest one. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. So that's the everlasting gospel. Was it 16 that I'm thinking of? I'm trying to think of the psalm I was reading last night. It describes idols. No, it was Psalm 63, somewhere around here. But it's talking about idols, and it says the other gods of this world are idols. So a lot of people will say, well, don't make your cell phone an idol. Don't, idolize water. Don't idolize this. That's not what God is talking about. God is talking about have no other God other than me, just like the first commandment. And so God describes that was not 70, it was 60 something, I believe, maybe 61. When God is talking about idols, he's talking about other gods, because they are no gods. Shoot, and my Bible's in the room, so I might grab that if we start watching the video. Yeah, I'll grab it while we watch. Forget exactly where it is. It's not 16. That's one of my wife's favorite psalms. Forget what I was reading. Lord help me. But so going over Revelation 18, Revelation 6, also the psalm of having other gods. AI is a very particular one, because it is, in a way and in a sense, coming to us as a god, because everyone is going and seeking knowledge and understanding and wisdom through AI. And there's a lot of different things that are about to happen, and probably have been happening for a long time, with what is it, Agent AI, and these new browsers that are being given to the world. I don't use anything like that. Actually, I reverse, and that's the second part of this live stream today, is reversing from all this stuff and going back to a simpler life and doing all you can to not be part of the world, not to be in the system, but coming out of Babylon. So let's go to our first video. This is Meredith Whittaker, The Hidden Dangers of Agentic AI. AI Security Warning from Signal Apps, Meredith Whittaker. The Hidden Dangers of Agentic AI. It's very interesting, because I don't know what Signal is. I think it's a messaging app, but it's very interesting how these developers of these applications that are widely spread for safety, security, and communication, especially, even some of them come out and speak about the dangers of AI. But will they stop doing what they're doing? No, because a lot of their justification is, well, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And at least if I do it, then, I can fight the system. And Revelation tells us there's no fight in the system. It's quite hilarious. But let's listen to her. It's a short video, and listening to what she said, I did this yesterday, and it was very interesting because I said, yeah, well, someone understands. Maybe more people will understand because AI is the super user. And that's what makes computing so dangerous nowadays as well. She talks about root control at the very end, and we'll briefly discuss root control of a computer or a root user at the end. And that was the scary part, because I didn't even think about that. And when she brought it up, I said, you know what? Yeah, that's interesting, because to be the root user, that's the only way that you can really get all these things to work and do what you need it to do, in the lens of AI being your assistant or agent. So let's get into this video. It's quite interesting.
We can get into that as well, but agentic AI, this is the thing that is the new buzzword that everything that used to be an assistant now is. I think there's a real danger that we're facing, and Signal is clocking this pretty closely, of the introduction of this sort of notion of agentic AI into our devices and lives, in part because what we're doing is giving so much control to these systems that are going to need access to data. So if you read the kind of, you read the marketing on this, the value add is something like, can look up a concert, book a ticket, schedule it in your calendar, and message all your friends that it's booked, right? And so we can just put our brain in a jar because the thing is doing that and we don't have to touch it, right? And so what would it need to do that? Well, it would need access to our browser, an ability to drive that. It would need our credit card information to pay for the tickets. It would need access to our calendar, everything we're doing, everyone we're meeting. It would need access to Signal to open and send that message to our friends. And it would need to be able to drive that across our entire system with something that looks like root permission. Accessing every single one of those databases, probably in the clear, because there's no model to do that encrypted. And if we're talking about a sufficiently powerful model, AI model that's powering that, there's no way that's happening on device, even though on device isn't the prophylactic, isn't going to really solve a lot of those issues. That's almost certainly being sent to a cloud server where it's being processed and sent back. So there's a profound issue with security and privacy that is haunting this sort of hype around agents, and that is ultimately threatening to break the blood-brain barrier between the application layer and the OS layer by conjoining all of these separate services, muddying their data, and doing things like undermining the privacy of your Signal messages because, hey, the agent's got to get in, the agent's got to text your friends, the agent's got to pull the data out of your text and got to summarize that so that, again, your brain can sit in a jar and you're not doing any of that yourself. You're doing something else. So I think we need to be really careful. When I think about the immediate concerns, not simply the history of AI and the fact that it's, predicated on this larger surveillance model, there's a real issue right now of the undermining that AI systems are poised to do in these privacy and security guarantees in the name of this sort of, magic genie bot that's going to take care of the exigencies of life.
That was interesting and amazing as well too, because I didn't even think about that necessarily, right? I didn't think about that at all. That for AI to do the things that people want AI to do, and what's also making it so profitable for a very few people, is the fact that it has that root permission. Root permission is what's called a super user on an operating system, the OS, an operating system. And when you have root control, you can do everything or anything on your computer. You can make files without permission. You can delete files without permission. You can install things without permission. You can get data without permission. You can view screens without permission. You can listen to microphones without permission. Anything that your computer does, if you have root power, if you are a super user, then you don't have to ask that computer for permission because it identifies you as the controller, as the owner, the one that manages it. So if AI is integrated into your system, like we see with these Apple smartphones now, then they have permission and access into your device without your permission for access. This reminds me quite a lot of the Patriot Act. And what the Patriot Act did was give us safety for the cost of privacy, right? That's what it was supposed to do, was give us safety, but we needed to give up our privacy. That's why we have TSA. TSA was not a thing until 9/11 happened, the Patriot Act. So because of 9/11, you can no longer travel outside the country unless the government knows who you are and where you're traveling and for what purpose. So when we look at the AI and agentic AI, it means that we now have given permission simply just by obtaining the software or obtaining the device that has the software on it, or just go on to the web and give up privacy by allowing a web browser to browse for us or what have you. We're giving up our permission. We're giving permission and giving up our security for monitoring, spying, tracking. And when people say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, why is it a problem? For the simple fact, when we read in scripture that you won't buy or sell, you won't trade unless you have the mark of the beast. And if you're not a good little boy or girl for the government, then you have given them access to monitor your speech and your activities. So if I were to go to a certain church, let's say I go to a non-denominational church, well, the government is shaping up to be a Catholic system. So they might not like the fact that I go to a non-denominational church. Then that will limit the things that I'm able to do, buy or provide food for my family, or even maybe pay rent or a mortgage or anything of the sort. And so that's the danger. It's not the fact that you have anything to hide, that you're a criminal trying to outwit the government. It's just the fact that, well, what seems okay today to say or do or places to go might not be tomorrow. And then that made you a criminal in the future, just like Minority Report. And so then they can go back and then prosecute you or just even block you from being able to live and participate in commerce, local commerce, with food, water, electricity, or shelter. So then you're out of the system, and you won't be allowed back in. And we see this through China. China has had this for a while. Because they have a social credit score. And this is how they're able to do the social credit score here in America, but on overdrive. So China was a test ground for a lot of this stuff, and America is not in beta phase anymore. It's just being deployed. And this is where we have been going. So the more that you get into AI, the more you're just giving up your security, your freedom, and potentially, which I say potentially now, but I'm pretty confident I can say that, not potentially, but you are giving up your freedom in the future and your ability to live. How long that takes, I have no idea. Could take a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40. The more years you add on to this prediction, the more the higher the probability that it'll already happen. So when I even say this might happen in 20 years, I think it's way more probable that it'll happen in 19 years. But you say 19 years, I think it's even more probable that all of this will take place where you can't buy, sell, eat, or trade anything in 5 years. And even 5 years from now seems too long because it's evolving so quickly. And that brings me to, well, what do we do? Well, this couple built their house for $39,000 in Colorado. They bought a piece of land for $100,000. And this is a route to go. It might not be the best. It might not be everyone's cup of tea. But if you haven't been thinking about this stuff already and been working to put yourself in this position, then there's no time like the present, because if they were to finance everything, that's $140,000 that they finance, which is definitely payable, where you could pay it off in a relatively quick span of time. It just takes massive sacrifice that whole time, but you could probably pay it off in 15 years or less. And just living a very minimal life, not buying new things, very limiting that, having no other bills, having a paid off car or something old, or of the sort, but not having bills. But everyone has bills. Everyone has car payments, house payments, electricity payments, all these things. And anything that you can do to minimize your payment, one third of your money usually goes to a car payment and insurance. So if you eliminate your car payment and you get something old, your insurance is going to drop as well too, and you won't have that car payment. So that'll save you a whole bunch of money. Let's get into this video and just continue where I left off. This couple's $39,000 DIY home is a financial masterpiece. It says Tiny Home Tours. So kind of funny. But this is where we are, and this is where it's shaping out to be. So, I would say keep your mind open for the possibilities that this can open for you in the future. Or if you're able to do this, then go do it. Might be a really good way to beat the system, or at least get out of the system and start building up to protect your children. So, yeah, let's just watch this for a little bit. It's quite fun. Gorgeous house too.
But if you're going to build like that economically, you have to do your homework. You don't just start building and then gather your material. Come up with your plan and then plan on gathering your material over a period of time and then start building. Because when you build this way, if you're going to build economical, when you need something is not the time to start shopping for it. Shop for your stuff, store it, and then build. And another thing that does for you, it helps you when you're building on how you build to utilize the cheap material that you've bought.
But one thing to be aware of, when you build like this, it is more labor intensive. James asked me over and over, why do I do things that that it's so, I mean, it takes so much work to do. I said, well, because it's cheap. So, it is more labor intensive when you collect your stuff like that than when you just go to the Home Depot and buy everything nice and new and ready to use and puts together easily. This was definitely more work.
It took us about 8 or 9 months to build this, and that was Doreen and I doing 90% of the work. We did have help with a few of the things that were really labor intensive that needed a lot of hands. Relationships are important. You need friends. And our friends are glad to come over and help us. We go and help them. And yeah, it took about 8 or 9 months. As far as what this house costs to live in, this is a passive solar, so we have no heating expense at all.
No electricity. The sun provides all our energy.
And then really the only expense we have is our gas bill, which is around $85 a month. The property tax here is around $1,500 a year. So that's really the only expense we have as far as just out-of-the-pocket expense to live here. Of course, we got our groceries and things like that. But as far as a house actually living here, it's very, very economical. Another real important part of living in the area that you're thinking of building on is the local codes, your codes and your restrictions. If you're going to be in an HOA, we actually live in an HOA. How they operate, your county and its zoning laws, all of that is important. You can buy a piece of property and be surprised with a lot of different things. And there's a lot of homework goes into this. So don't just buy a piece of property and think you're going to build your dream, because your dream might collide with the zoning laws, and that's never pleasant. So just be careful. And again, this is why it's so important to live in an area. Talk to the locals, make friends, talk to people that have done what you're thinking about doing. They are a wealth of information. This thing of independence is kind of a joke. None of us can really make it on our own. We need people in our lives and people that know what they're doing, people that have gone before us, and they can help us a lot. So yeah, make friends, move into an area, live there for a year. It'll help you a lot.
Looking at this house, I can see that this is not glorious or amazing for most people, because this is a small home. But when I see the price of out of pocket expenses per year, this is the biggest expense anywhere that you do something of the sort is going to be property tax. Property tax, see, that is a small home. That is not massive, that is not huge, but it's gorgeous, it's functional, it does what you need it to do. And there's no stopping you from adding on to this in the future as well too. And they have 35 acres. That is a and that's a gorgeous piece of land right there as well too. And it looks like they're a little bit on the top of a ridge, so the water will flow down, and they won't be at the bottom of the valley, which would be dangerous for floods. But property tax, $1,500 a year. If that goes up and doubles, $3,000 a year, who cares? I mean, at that point, can you work throughout the year and earn $3,000? If it goes up to $10,000, can you work a year and earn $10,000? You could do that working minimum wage part-time. Now, that probably will be most of your expenses. I think minimum wage and working part-time at the end of the year will be somewhere around $18,000 that you'll probably earn. But that's an extreme case for property tax, as they're nowhere even near that, nor I don't think anywhere is really near that unless you have a massive house. To get something like that, you got to be having a multi-million-dollar mansion. But $1,500 is it's not bad. It's not bad. And then utilizing the sun. God gave us the sun, the moon, the stars for times and seasons, and to help us out, to warm and take care of everything as far as heating is concerned, and for daylight, for working. And so this house is amazing. When we give up our ideal of I want what the world wants as well, and we say, oh, I need a 4-bedroom, 5-6 bedroom, 4 bath, 3 bath, 2 bath, whatever, because I need massive things. I need a big old yard with a high fence, but then you want to be butt up right next to your neighbor, which is 8 feet away. It's crazy. And then you're gonna pay $500,000 so that way you can listen to what your city wants you to do. I mean, there will be laws, there will be regulations and codes you do have to follow, like you said. But the more DIY, the more that we just say, okay, well, I'm going to sacrifice right now for a better payoff later, the better off we will be, the better off our children will be, and the better off our children's children will be. Because they've done this, even if they're not able to pay off their mortgage, if they are to die and leave it to their children, then their children have a house to live in that's already paid off. And, you know, it would be a shame if their children sold this house with nothing to pay for other than property taxes. You know, that would be bad. But that situation of having this house, it's not massive, but, you know, maybe they could even have one of their grandchildren live in it and not pay anything other than property tax. And that just gives them a head start on life, saying, look, you don't need to spend all this money. Here's that, save your money, go build and do the same thing, and then branch off from there.
Quite done with this area. Eventually, we're going to have bookshelves here on the wall. This is just a piece of wall that I bought off a neighbor, and it turned out cool. It's got this little hole in the top that works great to run your cords through, so you don't have to drill your own hole. And also, I'm going to eventually put a bank of drawers there on that side. All in all, it turned out really great. This is a beautiful piece of wood, and I think we're really going to enjoy it.
Okay, this is our little dining area. We just wanted a small table here that we could sit out while we eat our meals and enjoy the lovely views. Also, we didn't want just a square table. We bought this wood from our friend, and James cut it in wedges, and then we just kind of worked with it to make an organic shape. You can actually seat around 5 or 6 people around a small space, so works pretty good. And then another thing I like about this spot, in our windows, we have little wider window sills. We use saltillo tiles, and they're great for setting on. Another thing with our windows, they are just plain clear glass. These are double pane windows, but you do not want the low E glass that they put in most houses everywhere, because that reflects the sunshine. So it's for helping keep your house cool, but it's not good for heating your house. You just want the clear, plain glass, old-fashioned glass windows. I love the curve that is here in this corner. It breaks up the squareness of the house. The small house, you need more details. And it's just a lovely place to have my plants.
This house reminds me a lot of home as well too. I'm from New Mexico, so the Southwestern tradition, colors, and stuff of that sort, the wood, the stucco walls, the Pueblo style is just gorgeous to me. It's natural, it's normal, and I don't live in New Mexico anymore, so I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if I could even have something like this where I live now, and just getting ideas, because my wife and I, we've been working really hard to do something of this sort, and hopefully in the next 5-10 years would be amazing. But you know, it's a lot of sacrifice for hopefully the ultimate payout, and that is to be able to follow God without any limitations. without any restrictions and just getting away from this crazy world.
So this is the back part of the house. This is our dressing area, also utility room. We have our clothes storage here, bathroom behind me, closet there. Yeah, just a multi-function room. And when you build small, of course, everybody that has done this knows this. You have to use your spaces for more than one thing. And that's what this space is. Yeah, it works very, very well. We really enjoy this space. Whenever you separate your spaces out, just like the washer and dryer here, if you would enclose this, it makes your space feel smaller. And by leaving it open, it makes your space feel bigger. And there's trade-offs. You will see the washer and dryer in here. And some people don't like that. You have to decide what's the most important to you and then just roll with that. We like it more open. We like a more expansive feel. And so that's why we have it like we do. We got onto this in our bus. And when you're in a very small space like a bus, you have to be very efficient with your space. And we really fell in love with these open compartments. What it does is separate your clothes into sections, makes it very organized. Another thing I like is you can see it, so there's no guessing what you have here, and you can just easily pick which color, which pants, which shirt. Yeah, it's very quick. We like it. It's very efficient. I custom built this. These are just pieces of plywood with little strips nailed on the side. And then I have a friend that has a cabinet shop. He actually put the facing on these pieces, and these are just simple little half-inch pieces of melamine. It's a very simple design, very easy, very fast to build, and very inexpensive. It was great. We're over here by the vanity. I am not done with this. I'm going to put a mirror here on the wall and also the light fixture. But the cool thing about this is the top. This technique is called Cadillac. It's a Moroccan technique, and it's really cool. If you look it up and you would actually buy material to do this, it would be expensive. And if you would hire it done, it'd be very, very expensive. But when you do it yourself and you just use off-the-shelf stuff, it's very inexpensive, very cheap. I made this sink just out of plywood, and then I lined it, the whole thing with schluters, which is what you put in showers. And then I started with my Cadillac top. So it's hydrated lime and sand. You mix that together and you just trowel it on. And you put several coats of that on. And then to finish it is really unique. You actually use soap. I made my own soap. I made olive oil soap, and then you emulsify that in water. And then you just brush it on. And it ends up really, really cool. I didn't realize this, but homemade soap like that actually has a certain portion of wax in it. And that soaks into the lime plaster. And it has a chemical reaction, makes this stuff completely waterproof. And I'm sorry you can't feel this because the feel is really cool. It's got a real waxy feel to it, but it turned out looking really cool, I think.
I'm glad that I saw that because I did watch a video a while back of a girl making, just what he said is Cadillac, but it was a whole counter out of that. It wasn't a sink or anything, but it was the topping, I believe maybe in our kitchen or something of the sort. And I never seen something like that. But yeah, this is very, very labor intensive. Everything he had done, very little help. So that's the trade-off. Are you willing to do this work yourself or as much as you can yourself to save money, or do you just want to go buy this? Because if you were to buy this tiny home, it'd probably be about $120,000. Labor is going to be at least half the cost, so maybe even $80,000. I don't know.
So I made my shower out of slate. This would have been very expensive if I would have just gone to the store and bought it. But I had a friend that had a stack of this slate. It was actually a whole pallet full that I'd seen in his backyard for quite some time. So when I got ready to build this, I contacted him to see if I could get some off him, and he was glad to get rid of it. So bought it for $100 and installed it. So it turned out really cool. When you're going to build inexpensive, you have to be looking for those kind of bargains. So keep your eyes peeled when you get in your friend's backyard. We try to keep a feel throughout the house. This house is built with natural products throughout. This is natural stone, and it just all fits together. And for a good house design, that's what you want to do. You want to make sure to keep a certain theme throughout. And I feel like this shower answers that. Our house is off-grid. We've used composting toilets through the years for different applications. But in the county we live in, you must have a septic tank installed before you can get a building permit. So we have a septic tank, and this is a regular flush toilet. And those of you that live in town, you would think this is kind of strange, but this is the first flush toilet we've had for quite a few years. The people that visit us that aren't used to the more hippie ways, they're glad for this. But yeah, it's okay. But we still like our composting toilet pretty good.
Here's our bedroom. I painted the walls dark, decided to do that in contrast with all the light colors in all the other rooms, and I love the dark walls in here. Another thing I love about our room is the big windows. It is amazing when you're laying in bed and look out at the stars at night. It is really, really beautiful. And to wake up to the sunrise is really gorgeous also. Another thing I like about laying in bed, you look up at the ceiling and see the warm beams, the dark beams in contrast to the lighter ceiling. It creates a really nice ambience in here. Our bedroom floor, even to there. This is really nice.
Our spruce rampart. Our snow load here is 50 pounds per square foot, and this roof has a 100-pound per square foot design. So it wasn't like we just threw a dart at a dartboard and picked the logs. These are actually using a span table just like you would for any lumber that you would use. I put them on my sawmill and just flatten the top. By flattening them, it gives you a good flat surface to put your ceiling on, but also an easy place to take your measurements, like for notching into your walls and things like that. It gives you a good place to measure off of. So that's how I did that. Then I cut my ceiling boards also, and they are under us pine. So we got some variation in the color of the ceiling, but it really turned out beautiful. All the other wood here also cut. The beams on the windows and the uprights, they're all Doug fir. So we have three different species of wood in here. We have Doug fir, spruce, and ponderosa pine. And then I want to talk about the floor. We really like concrete floors. First of all, they're economical. You pour your floor, and that's your finished floor. Like I said earlier, we made a mistake on this. We did have them color the concrete, which is very expensive. We could have done it ourselves for a lot less, but we colored it dark because of the solar gain. And this house works together with the windows. And the way this works is the sun shines in on the floor, heats the floor up during the day, and the floor gets to around, I don't know, 95 degrees during the day, and then it radiates that heat out at night. But under the floor, this floor is about 5 inches thick, and under the floor we have 2 inches of insulation. And that's critical for a passive solar house, because if you don't do that, you'll lose all your heat into the ground. The walls are also concrete. They're just block that we stack and then poured full of concrete, and all of that absorbs the heat from the sun during the day, and that's all part of a good passive solar design. Now the floor, as far as a finish, I actually concocted my own finish, and it turned out working really good. Some of those things, those experiments are fails, but this one was a success. And it's just linseed oil and paint thinner, and then a little beeswax and a little carnauba wax, and mix those together, heat them up, and right after we poured the floor, I went over and put my finish on the floor and just dumped it on the floor, kind of like just spread it out, and then used a squeegee and just squeegeed it out, and it was real fast. It probably took me, I don't know, an hour or two to finish.
All right, that is awesome. So good for him. Good for him and his wife. That is amazing, and I pray that they can pay that off very quickly and not have any more bills. Well, it sounds like they already probably paid it off. So I don't know. anyways, just wanted to bring those things up, AI and the homestead. So give you guys some ideas and think about separating from this world and just getting away from all the craziness that the city brings to us. So I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. God bless.